Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tom Rivera, and thank you for being with us this afternoon in our project uh, recording the oral history of South Colton from 1890 to 1960. And our committee members, we have one of our committee members that's behind the camera, and that's Mr. Frank Acosta. So Frank, anytime you want to chime in during this interview, so we can get a complete interview this afternoon. And our guest this afternoon is Mrs. Bertha Bocanegra Guerrero. And Bertha, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. Thank you for taking some time out to be with us.
You're welcome, Tom.
And I'm delighted that you were available. Why don't we get started, Bertha? Let me ask you, your dad in the 30s was one of the few residents of South Colton that owned a business, and his business was a grocery store.
Yes.
Yeah. What was your dad's name?
Trinidad.
What is it?
Trinidad.
Trinidad Guerrero?
Bocanegra.
Bocanegra, Trinidad Bocanegra. Guerrero was your husband.
Right.
Okay.
They're all Trinis.
Sorry about
That's
that.
all right.
And tell me, how did, before we get into your dad starting this grocery store, where did he come from Mexico? What part did he
He
come
came from Irapuato, in Irapuato, Guanajuato, Mexico.
Uh-huh. And when was he born, do you know?
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah. And when he came to Colton, why did he come to Colton?
Because he had relatives here, and his father had died, and he wanted to help his mother and his brothers.
Uh-huh.
And the only way he could do it was to come over here with his relatives and try to find a job here.
So he was the oldest in the family, his
I think
family in
so.
Mexico?
Mhm.
And you had relatives here in Colton?
Yes.
Do you remember who the name of the relatives were?
Pimentel, Salvador Pimentel.
Uh-huh.
They were on N Street, and it's corner from the Bolero, little store that was there.
Yes.
Estaba el Bolero, then N Street. There was a couple of houses there, and they lived in one of those little houses.
Oh, and how long had they been here in Colton?
I don't know.
But they've been here.
They've been here,
They were here, but then your dad decided to come here and be with the
Mhm,
family.
mhm.
And then when he came to Colton, did he get a job?
Not right away, but I don't know how soon he got a job, but that's when he was a panadero, hacía Mexican bread.
Oh, he made bread. He was a
So-
baker. He was a
So he got
baker.
a job at Martinez Bakery.
Oh, so that worked out well. If he was a
Mhm.
baker,
Mhm.
do you know how old he was when he started working as a baker?
I don't know.
Yeah. But he started working at the Martinez Bakery.
Martinez Bakery. Mhm.
And Martinez Bakery had been established for a long time.
Yeah, I've been there quite a while.
Yeah, it was a market,
Mhm.
and then also lots of bakery goods. ¿Verdad?
Mhm.
The bread that we used to call pan mexicano.
Pan Mexicano.
So he was an expert at doing that, eh?
He was very good at it.
And how long did he work for Martinez?
Till him and my mom got married.
Ah, now
So-
when did he meet your mom?
He met
Or-
my mom there at Martinez Bakery.
Well, she also worked
Because my
for.
mother worked at the store.
Ah, okay.
My dad was a panadero, my mother sold groceries,
Uh-huh.
this and that, so the
And what was
Got
your mom?
acquainted.
What was your mom's name?
Angela Ramos,
Angela Ramos. Any relatives in Colton?
not anymore.
Who were the relatives back then?
She had a brother, Marcelino Ramos,
Uh-huh.
that lived over by Lola on 3rd Street.
On Third and L or?
Third and L.
Third L.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. And they met there at the store.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad
My
met
mom,
at the store.
mhm.
Did they have a long courtship or?
I don't know.
O se la robó?
No, they got married, she lived with her father, my grandfather, nos
Uh-huh.
eran los dos,
Uh-huh.
And she started working there, and they met, and I don't know how soon afterwards they got married.
Did
got
they have a
married.
church wedding or did
Yes, they did, they had a
there, did they marry there at San Salvador?
San Salvador, the
Uh-huh.
old San Salvador. Yeah,
And
so.
how long did they work at the grocery store before they made a move?
And Martinez, you mean?
They went Martinez, yes.
I don't know, I don't
Uh-huh.
know. I
Uh-huh.
don't know how long they were there. I guess after they got married, I guess they started saving money, and I don't know if the store that we had then, when I was a little girl, if they bought it or if they rented, but as far as I knew, it belonged to my dad.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a little house in the back, and he would rent the little house in the back, so that did pretty good for them,
So after they got married, they started having a family?
Yes.
And are you the oldest of the family?
Yes. There was two of us, my brother and me,
And well, when were you born?
1930.
1930?
I mean, 1931.
1931? And your brother came later?
He came 3 years later.
And you were Bertha and he was
Trini.
junior.
Yes.
He was junior, Trini.
Yes.
Trini.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that your mom and dad work at the store, and then what motivated your dad to buy his own
I don't know.
store?
I don't know. I think he just wanted to be on his own, do his own thing,
Uh-huh.
He stopped, after they bought the store, he stopped making bread. He wasn't working, he had his own business, so
Uh-huh.
started growing, and he learned how to be a butcher, cut his own meat. And
See.
I remember them bringing maybe half a cow, or pieces of pork or something, and then I would see him in a great big table there, cutting the meat, and then he learned how to make the hamburger too.
También?
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, was the store offered to him, or did he locate
I
the
don't know.
place?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I remember, I was maybe 4 or 5.
Uh-huh.
So-
Well, you were tiny then.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
mhm,
And all you know is that you worked at the store,
mhm.
or your dad
I
or mom
grew up
worked
in
at
the store too. I grew
Uh-huh,
up
uh-huh.
in the business. Uh-huh.
So your dad left being a baker to being a complete store owner,
Mhm.
and did everything that needed to be done to run the
Yes.
store,
Mhm.
excuse me, including being a butcher.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And you
So-
said he learned how to make his own hamburger?
Because I would watch him,
Uh-huh.
and then I started growing up, and then I would start helping him, stuck up here, cans of tomato sauce, string beans, canned corn, We'd go to, there was a place where we would go pick up what we needed, Smart and Final.
Okay.
It was used to be, this was 100 years ago, was the show, The New Colton. And there used to be on the corner next to it, used to be that Smart and Final.
On the same side of the show?
Uh-huh, and we'd go over there, and he had to have some kind of a permit license. And he'd buy the tomato sauce or whatever stuff, beans, bag of beans, whatever we needed, and bring it to the store and stuff.
So
at
all
the
his
store.
supplies were bought at Smart and
Smart and
Final?
Final. Mhm.
Yeah, they're next to, what street is that? That's Valley Boulevard.
I don't know what it
I
is.
Street, I
Yeah,
Street,
yeah.
I
mhm,
Street.
I Street.
Where he
Mhm.
bought all his provisions,
Mhm.
bought all his
Yeah,
provisions.
so-
And then he would take him to the store and have you put them where they
And
belong.
then as I started to grow up, I would have to help him price them.
Uh-huh.
We'd make 2 cents here or 3 cents over there, stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
so. And then all the people the neighbors started coming over and asking for credit,
Uh-huh.
because in those days, well, nomás el hombre, just the man would work,
Yeah.
not the wife, the wife would stay home, take care of the kids,
Yeah. How big was the store?
It was fairly good size. He had a meat counter, and then we had all the walls, 1, 2, 3, about 4 walls, shelves, where we would stock up, and then he had like a walk-in refrigerator, and that's where he would have the meat, and we'd have the cheese and the milk, and behind that, he'd have great big boxes of eggs. We had a man that would deliver eggs, and then he would make me put 12 eggs. I didn't know it was a dozen.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
12 eggs in a bag, and fold them up and put in there. Then people would come. I need a dozen eggs, or a dozen and a half, or 6 eggs, whatever
Uh-huh,
they needed.
see.
If all I had was a dozen, I'd go and get another bag and put 6 eggs or whatever, take them to them.
Yeah.
I don't remember how much, a quarter or whatever
Right,
it was.
right. Now, when you walk into the store, there was a front entrance,
Mhm.
and was there kind of an open space in the middle where, and then on either side you had the different products
Yes,
that you would.
uh-huh, mhm, yeah.
Yeah, so when you walked in, on the left-hand side was what? Was a meat market?
No,
or-
on the left side, he had like a glass shelves to a counter, like something like that there,
Uh-huh.
and we had candy there. All kinds of candy and balloons and marbles and what. And at that time, my grandfather, since he lived with my mom, he was the one that was taking care of the candy department. Kids would
Okay.
come and buy, those days there was like 3 candies for a penny,
Uh-huh.
something like that,
Yeah.
you know. And then on the other side was the counter, the cash register. Next to the, where he had the candy, that's where the meat counter was. you know,
Okay.
and where he'd do his,
Okay.
cut his meat, and we'd slice the bologna and,
So Grandpa Ramos was in charge of the candy?
uh-huh.
And then next to it was the meat market?
Meat counter.
Now, did your dad, you said your dad made the hamburger
Mhm.
and cut butchered the meat to
Mhm.
be sold. Did he also make chorizo?
No, he would buy the chorizo. Somebody else would come. Se llamaba Cinco de Mayo.
Okay,
It was somebody that had a business, I don't remember where, it was like where, donde estaba el remate 100 years ago.
yes, yes,
An area there, they would make the chorizo, and they would make chicharrones.
yeah.
And they would come to my dad would buy so much chorizo and so much chicharrones.
So, remate was the swap meet, where the swap meet is.
Mhm.
The current swap meet, Bertha, in that area?
Yeah.
See,
Mhm,
ahí estaba?
yeah, ahí estaba, ajá,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
So your dad would buy the chorizo from there,
Mhm.
los chicharrones,
Mhm.
las trompitas,
Yes.
and what about menudo?
No, we had the menudo like in bulks. He would cut that up. People would come, quiero 2 libras de menudo, so he'd get a piece and he'd cut it up for them. Y las
Ajá.
patas que pones en el menudo.
Either patas de puerco or
Mhm, de puerco.
pork or
Ajá.
or beef.
But most of the time it was pork,
Uh-huh.
patas de puerco.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And then on the right side, what did you have? The cash register?
We had the cash register, and then we had another area with all the vegetables, the lettuce, the tomatoes, carrots, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And another counter with the Mexican bread, because Martinez would come and deliver Mexican bread.
Oh, okay.
Like every night or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, fresh
Mhm.
bread. And if there was any Mexican bread left, they would take the old one and put in the fresh one,
Mhm.
So that's what we had there.
So
And the sodas, and then there was a wall, behind the counter there, like on the right-hand side, and that's where he had the liquor store. It was Jimmy's Liquor Store.
Or next to?
Right, attached to the
The
store, to the grocery store.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know how him and Jimmy met, but, he rented the space to Jimmy, and then Jimmy started selling liquor there.
So Jimmy Reese, did he rent from your dad, or did he?
Mhm. No,
Oh,
he rent from my dad,
Uh-huh.
and then after a few years, and then there was a house next to the building there that belonged to my dad too, and my dad would rent him part of for the liquor store, and then the house, and then, after a few years, they saved, Jimmy and Florence, the wife, saved money, and then they moved about 4 or 5 houses down,
Mhm.
next,
4 or 5 houses down towards,
to the right, which was next to the Vasquez,
going towards N Street?
Yeah, going to ours, but not that close.
Yeah.
Just like 4 or 5 houses from the store.
That's where Jimmy bought his new
He bought-
new store, okay.
That's what he made his store.
Yeah.
He bought the house there too, so.
But do you remember who your dad bought the store from, or the
No.
property from?
Mm-mm.
Can't remember that, eh?
Mm-mm.
And then after they bought their meats and their pan dulce and their latas of whatever they needed, they would pay. And who would run the register, your mom or you?
My mom, and then I learned how. So as I grew up, I knew how to do the register, and then after years, and I got married and then I told Trini, I said, I want to go look for a part-time job. I says, I don't know what I'm going to look for, but I just want to work a few hours. He said, okay, look. But I ended up at Harris, a cashier, so for 25 years.
So you got a good training at the
I
store
got
then.
good experience
Good
there. I
training
knew how to
there.
work the register,
Yeah.
give you change,
Yeah.
count it out to you,
Yeah.
So I learned.
The other thing is that, did your dad give credit
Oh, yes.
to his customers? So he did
Oh,
give
yeah,
credit.
we have little books,
Mhm.
and people would come and on top, on the label here would be their name, like Hernandez or Gonzalez, whatever, and then I would write down pan, whatever it was, 13 cents, leche, 15, you know.
Uh-huh.
So then at the end of the week, they would come, a ver cuánto debo, so $7 or what.
So at the end of the week, they
pay-
would come
they
and
would
pay your dad?
Mhm,
Uh-huh.
and start over again.
So it was regular then, they were
So everybody
trustworthy
there on Fifth
customers?
Street they were all customers, that's how I got to know a lot of people,
Uh-huh.
the families, so,
Uh-huh.
that I learned, which was good for me, good experience.
Well, not only that, but you also did a lot of favor for people that
Yeah.
were waiting to get
And we
paid
would
at the end of the
deliver,
week.
we would, because very few people had cars.
Uh-huh.
If they wanted in those days, they would buy 25-pound bags of flour, harina, para
Oh,
hacer las
that's
tortillas.
right.
Well, if they lived 5 houses down, a woman, she couldn't carry that, and
Uh-huh.
she always had 3 or 4 kids with her,
Uh-huh.
So my dad put them in the truck and whatever else canned stuff that she would buy, and we'd go over there and he would deliver.
Huh.
Uh-huh.
What about sacks of potatoes and?
Yeah, uh-huh.
También?
Mhm, todo lo que
Uh-huh.
quería, we would
Yeah.
deliver, so.
So you,
We were busy. And then when he decided he would start closing on Sundays at noon,
well, you were open up, you
We
were
were open up every single
Okay.
day.
¿A qué
you
horas,
know.
what time would you open the store?
I think about 8, and then he would close it till about 7 in the evening. So then he decided, well, we need some time off, so then my brother and I were growing up, so that's when he decided to close on Sundays at noon. Well, people started complaining, ¿cómo que va a estar cerrado a mediodía ahí? Because people would have company on Sundays or something, or a relative was
Oh,
coming
okay.
and they needed food, they needed something to drink or
Uh-huh,
something,
uh-huh.
But so my dad said, no, pues yo también, I need time, necesito tiempo con mi familia, so we would do that,
So he would start closing at noon
At
on
noon
Sundays?
On Sundays,
Uh-huh,
just
uh-huh.
we weren't going anywhere, just sit around, relax, go out and eat something, we'd go to
Uh-huh.
the show or something,
Uh-huh.
which was great.
Well, I'm delighted that, to hear that he gave credit, because many people that, we had a lot of people that worked at cement plant,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you had a lot of customers from the cement
Yes,
plant.
uh-huh,
You had some people that worked for the PFE,
yes.
Pacific Fruit Express, and you had some
Mhm.
customers from there. You had a lot of people that picked oranges,
Most of them.
La Volucha, La Volucha.
And then in the summers, we would go pick walnuts. They would go to Hemet, pick walnuts, because during the summer, the kids were out of school, so they would take half a dozen kids, whatever kids they had, and the kids would all help pick walnuts. And they would come home with their hands black.
Uh-huh.
It would take a week or something for all that stuff to get out their
Uh-huh.
hands, I remember
So
seeing
families
that.
would migrate with whatever,
Mhm.
whatever
Whatever
was
they
available
could,
to,
uh-huh.
to harvest.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And let me ask you another question. When did your dad give up the store or retired?
No,
Do
he
you remember the
never, he
year?
never retired. He died in 54.
Oh, he passed away?
He passed away. He had a heart attack, really. He was fine, he just started getting too tired and slowing down. And in those years, you didn't go for a checkup with doctors, or you didn't have a permanent doctor, You got sick, well, that's when you would go see some doctor.
Uh-huh.
And then after my mother passed, and then
Well, your dad passed away
My
in
mo-
55?
54.
54,
Uh-huh,
okay.
yeah. And my mother died in 44. And so after she passed away, my father remarried. So after he was remarried, and then one day my stepmother calls, and she tells me, your dad's not feeling good. His chest hurts a lot and his back. And it was New Year's Day. And I said, he's hurting? She said, yeah. I said, is he catching a cold or what? She says, I don't know. I said, maybe he's catching the flu or, so anyway, I'll be right there. So we went, so I said, turn over, Dad. I was rubbing him with Vicks. In those days, that's all we
It
knew.
was Vicks, yes, I remember
So he
Vicks.
laid down on the bed, and I'm rubbing his back, and then I told him, now turn over, and I'll rub your chest. So then when he turned over, he just kind of went like that, and what? And I told him, call the ambulance, call the ambulance. And well, when they got there, he was already gone. He had a heart attack. That's
was
what he was
quick.
having.
It was
So
quick.
we didn't know the symptoms of a heart attack then. We didn't know anything,
Mhm.
So that's, so then he passed, and after a few months, well, my stepmother didn't know anything about the store, and I had the kids, I didn't want to.
You were married by that time? You were married by that time?
Oh, yeah, so I didn't want, I wanted to stay home with my family,
Mhm.
so she closed it, so then after that, I guess she sold, I don't remember now, I think she sold the place or whatever, so. So then whoever bought it, they knocked down the building, and I heard there was a house there, but like I told you, I don't go by there.
Mhm.
on Fifth Street. Too many memories, and I don't wanna think about
So,
them.
so once your dad passed away, then it was kind of, the family didn't participate in continuing with the store?
No, there was nobody.
Uh-huh.
He had nobody.
Mhm.
He had a brother who lived, my dad sent for him from Mexico. He was one of his younger brothers. Then my dad loaned him money, and he opened a bakery in Ontario. It was Bocanegra Bakery. And then he passed away too. So
Mm.
that was the end of that too, so. And my dad's gone too, so that's all there was. He didn't have nobody else, His relatives were all gone too,
Mm.
so that was the
Now,
end.
let me ask you, did your dad participate in activities, community activities como las fiestas patrias?
I remember Las Fiestas Patrias, they would come and ask him if he wanted to,
Sponsor?
decorate his car. We'd be on the parade. That I do remember.
What kind of car did you have?
I was a Chevy, but I don't know what year or what,
Uh-huh.
but, and he would put like a sarape on where the top of the wheels are, the two, and that's something on top of the wheels, and of course, I'd sit in the front with him,
Oh, you'd be part of the parade.
And we go and then there was Esteban Hernandez too.
Esteban Hernandez story, yeah.
So he'd have a car too, and I don't know, Martinez did too. Everybody that had a little business or something would have a car decorated and just drive, all the way several streets. Yeah, se acabó el parade.
Uh-huh. Now, what was the route of the parade? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Uh-huh. Down 8th Street, La Cadena?
It was probably 8th Street. I remember, people standing in corners there, but,
Uh-huh.
whatever. And you put on the car you put like, Bocanegra store, or Fifth Street store, and Martinez Bakery, so people would know whose car that was.
Or who was participating in the parade?
Who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did they cheer for you when your
Of
car?
course. Of course, And then like, once a week or every 2 weeks, they'd have a meeting there was a Chamber of Commerce.
Uh-huh. Was it the Colton or the South Colton?
The Colton, it was just Colton Chamber of Commerce, and the ones that had a business would all go and meet, I guess, and discuss, what was going on, or what was better, or what to do, or hours, or whatever,
So your dad was a member of the Chamber of
Oh,
Commerce?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
But when you participated in the fiestas, do you remember about what years that would have been? It would have been, what, in the mid to late 40s or in the early 50s?
No, not in the 50s, it had to be probably the middle 40s, something like that.
When you were in junior high and high school?
Mm-hmm.
Bertha, you had your store during the 30s, during the Depression. Did the Depression have any effect on your store, or?
I don't remember, because I was born in 31,
Yeah.
so I don't, I guess it probably did,
Mhm.
but, because as the years went by, my dad would keep adding more stuff to the store, so I think in those days, maybe he just had a few things, I don't know. I never questioned, or, you're just a kid, you don't know what's really going on.
You're just going through the motions of
Uh-huh.
growing up.
Whatever,
Yeah.
but too many years ago,
Yeah.
just memories, but I remember Calderas, his pool, and he had the
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask you
a
because
nightclub.
you lived on Fifth Street, and, I've heard that Mr. Juan Cabrera, Caldera, Mr. Juan, I always miss that last name, but Mr. Juan Caldera had a swimming pool in that area. Tell us about that pool. How far is how far
It was just a block from my dad's store,
Okay,
because Calderas had a house, two-story house, then, practically across from where he had the swimming pool. So I
Uh-huh.
think that all all of that property belonged to him, because when I remember the house was there and the swimming pool was already there. And then, I started growing up and I would ask my daddy if I could go and this and that. And like around the block, that's where he had a dance hall. And people would have parties there or dance or have a dance. I don't know if it was certain holidays or what, but I remember going with my mom and dad and they would dance,
Mhm.
there, And then there was that other store, Aguilera, on Ann Street, but where the trucks are, where the
Yes.
underpass is now.
Yes.
There used to be a grocery store there too, Aguilera's grocery store.
Did it change to
Después era Negrete.
Negrete?
Negrete.
Afterwards with
Mhm. Yeah,
Negrete,
uh-huh.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
See, you
But
do
the-
remember something.
Te digo, I'm an old guy. What about, tell me more about the swimming pool. Was it a big swimming
To
pool?
me, it was fairly good size,
Okay,
and the water was just right, and then they had dressing rooms también, But I don't remember if they had any kind of something to drink, a soda, or there was no bottles of water
Yeah.
there, so it had to be sodas, I don't know.
did you swim?
No, I would
in the
just get
pool?
my feet in there.
Okay,
'Cause like I told you, my father didn't allow me, I would just could go there for 15 minutes, so I would sit on the edge there, the cement, stick my
oh,
feet
so your
in there.
father made sure that you were well chaperoned?
Oh.
Tell us about that chaperoning that your dad made sure that you were
But like on Sundays,
protected.
I was in high school, and on Sundays, I was in Colton, we wanted to go to the show, And he would tell me, I will take you at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock on Sundays in the afternoon, he'd drop me off right in front of the show. And
Now,
he
which
would-
show was
The
this?
New Colton.
The new Colton,
And he
okay.
would stay right there in the street till he saw me get my ticket and walk in the show. And then he would take off. And then he would tell me, a las 7, aquí estoy por ti. Sometimes I would tell him, porque in those days, there was 2 movies and a
Yes.
cartoon and previews and something else, And I would tell him, no se va a acabar a las 7. A las 7, aquí te quiero. Darn. Okay, so that was the only way I could get to the show.
Yeah, that was on Sundays?
It was, and only on Sundays.
Uh-huh,
Mhm.
uh-huh.
And then when I got a boyfriend, well, I didn't know how to tell him, because I knew what his answer was gonna be,
And how old was he, how old were you when your dad took you to the show?
About 15,
15?
14,
Yeah.
15. He would take
Uh-huh.
me and my girlfriend. The same thing was with her. Then we started lying. I would tell my dad, because sometimes he would, they would start showing movies on Wednesdays.
Uh-huh.
And I would tell them, quiero ir al show. Decía, no, ya fuiste el domingo. Dice yo, pero papá, es Wednesday, es otra movie. No, ya fuiste el domingo, no vas. So then I would tell him that the mamá de mi girlfriend,
What was your girlfriend's name?
Nancy,
Nancy's last name?
at that time era Esquer.
Esquer.
She wanted to know if I could go to the show with her, or else they wouldn't let her go to the show. And she would tell her mom that my dad wanted to know if she could go to the show, or else I couldn't go.
So it was
So
a
we would both-
conspiracy.
we would
It was a
lie. Yeah,
conspiracy.
we would lie together. And we'd get a kick out of it because we would both lie. That was the only way.
Uh-huh.
But that's, they were parents and things were different then. And he'd say a certain time and that's all there was to it. He didn't care if I saw the movie, half of the movie, or if I didn't see it or what, you'd be here.
So would you go to the show on Wednesday and Sunday?
No, just on Sunday.
Just on Sunday?
Mhm.
And how much they charge you at the movies? Do you remember?
Then I think it was 50 cents. Well, there used to be a quarter, and then, things started to go up, but I think it was 50 cents.
Uh-huh.
By the time I got married, it was like 50 cents.
And then you got your money's worth, huh?
Yeah.
2 movies,
Mhm.
a cartoon, the news and the previews.
There was a chapter, or what, I forgot what the heck we called it.
And the chapters were, I think I saw Batman,
Mhm, something like
Yeah.
that, that's
or the
what-
Lone Ranger or somebody,
Mhm,
yeah.
Yeah,
those
see,
movies,
see,
yeah.
you do remember a little bit.
A little bit. Now, did you ever have a chance to go to a salon and enjoy the music or the dancing there at Calderas?
Well, just with my parents.
Uh-huh.
And I'd sit there, and they would dance, and I would just sit there like this.
Mhm.
That's all there was to it.
Mm.
Couple of hours, yeah, vámonos. Porque it would be on Saturday night, and next day I have to get up and go to church.
Uh-huh.
So.
Oh, you were also a good Catholic then?
Oh, yes, my grandfather was very devoted Catholic. In fact, my grandfather would go to church every single day.
Was this grandfather Ramos?
My mother's father.
Your mother's father? We go to church every
And I
day?
remember we would sit down to eat, and my grandfather was always there. We would eat, and then when we get through eating, you just didn't get up and leave. No, we would sit there and teníamos que darle gracias a Dios. And then my brother and me, my mom, and then we pick up our plates, put them in the sink. Yeah. But every day teníamos que darle gracias a Dios que nos dio de comer.
Mm.
I remember those things,
Mhm.
And he would taught me how to pray the rosary. And at night we had to go to his room, kneel down next to his bed. Ahí tenía un santo, and we would pray an Our Father or a Hail Mary, so we could go to bed.
So you were brought up a good Catholic, and you went to church every Sunday?
Every Sunday, and during the, like Easter, the Holy Week and that, every day. Because my grandfather went every day, but he would make us go, the Holy Week, we would go every day, our ashes and no carne,
That's right.
And we would give this up or give
Fish.
that up,
Fish on Fridays or,
Yeah, we would
Yeah.
give up, during Lent, you couldn't eat candy or we couldn't eat ice cream, nothing. You had to
well,
give-
you'd have to give up something,
We have to
¿verdad?
give up something.
Yeah, for 40 days?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you give up?
I don't remember what I gave up. They would watch me. It was probably candy, I don't know
Uh-huh,
what it
uh-huh.
was, but
Yeah.
that's the way life was then.
And tell me about church on Sundays. What time was your church?
I think it was at 9. There was only one mass then, those days, but I remember Father Valencia.
Oh, he was your pastor, he was your
Uh-huh,
priest?
There was probably another one before him, but I don't remember him.
Yeah, because Father Valencia came in 1937, so I guess that's when you were, Yeah.
So we used to go. And then he knew it, Father Valencia knew us,
uh-huh,
He'd go by and he'd walk down the aisle. It was the old church,
Yes.
one aisle.
yeah.
And he'd walk and he'd look and make sure we were there and who was there and who wasn't. And then we'd go to catechism every Saturday. And I hated to go to catechism because all week I get up to go to school, and on Saturday I wanted to sleep late. No, te levantas, tienes que ir. Oh, God.
And what time was catechism?
I don't know, 10 o'clock, I guess, but to me that was, well, I wanted to sleep till noon.
Uh-huh.
You're a kid, you want to sleep half the day,
Uh-huh.
No,
Uh-huh.
you get up and you go to catechism, you learn this and you learn that, So, that's the way life was.
Getting back to your store, you mentioned that you gave credit to
Mhm.
many of the customers there on Fifth Street. Did your dad have any disgustos from people? How did he keep people coming back to his store?
I don't know, I don't remember him having anything. People would sometimes move away or would pass away, move to another town or something, but as far as I remember, everybody that I knew that lived there on Fifth Street had credit.
Uh-huh.
And they would come and pay, so, we would, like I said, we'd give them, I would write down pan or leche, queso, whatever they would buy, and then I would give them like a receipt.
Mhm.
And then the day they were coming to pay, some of them had already added up how much
What
they
they owed,
owed.
what they
So
owed.
then they would come over here and, well, we had a netting machine, and then had to pull this. So then I would give them the slip of what it said, the amount, and they would check their bills
Mhm.
to see if it amounted to the same thing. So
Mhm.
they would go ahead and pay.
So it was really just a friendly neighborhood grocery store.
I think so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
knew each other too, no
Mhm.
problem.
And everybody was happy with the service?
Uh-huh.
And your
Everybody was
dad
fine.
didn't have any disgusto with anybody? Yeah.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Everything went fine all those years, and then nothing.
So he ran the store for about 20 years or so?
Oh, probably more. Maybe around 30, probably.
30 years or
I
so?
think so. Mhm.
That's a long time.
Uh-huh.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a long time, but whatever, that's what him and my mom liked to do, so
Mhm.
they did it, so. That was their life, so. So to each his own, but you learn. We experienced a lot, my brother and me, this and
Mhm.
that. I don't remember my brother helping as much in the store as I did, but that was my brother.
They probably they probably chaperoned you more than they did him, Bertha? Yeah, because he was a boy, yeah, yeah.
And of course, we'd get into it, me and my brother,
Uh-huh.
we'd get into it for one reason or another, and then he'd tell me, le voy a decir a mi papá. And I told him, Papa, es un mentiroso. Es puras mentiras lo que está diciendo. And then he'd go at me, like he was going to beat me up. He never hit me or anything.
Well, talking about you going to the show and lying to go to the show.
Yes.
That was part of your entertainment. What are the things that you do for entertainment? Did you go?
Well, sometimes I get invited to parties, but he didn't let me go to parties. A couple of times, he'd have a few beers, and then I knew that was my time for me to ask him, because he would say, "Okay, vete," But then he'd go get me. I'd be there like 30 minutes or something, and it was so embarrassing, because the girls would go, your dad, oh. And I'd come out, súbete, get in the car, vámonos. No, papá, no. Sí, vámonos, te estoy diciendo. Okay. I knew I couldn't argue with him, so go to bed. Go home, go to bed. That's all.
Were the parties neighborhood parties or
yeah, neighborhood
in
night.
South Colton?
Yeah, South Colton, but there wasn't years later, it was all drinking. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't, it was.
Just getting together.
Everybody had record players then, you put a record on, they turn it on.
Were they the big
you would
78?
dance.
Or the
Yes,
big- yeah.
yes. You would dance, and just sit around and talk,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes they have a piece of cake or something, nothing, not a whole meal, and no even beer didn't ever come to nobody's brain in those days, it was maybe Kool-Aid.
Uh-huh.
Lo que hacían Kool-Aid, because that was the cheapest thing, and could make gallons of Kool-Aid,
Uh-huh.
Drink Kool-Aid and have a piece of cake and go home, or my dad would come and get me, so go home.
And how long did he let you stay at the party?
Not more than an hour.
Ooh.
Not more than an hour. And one day he was feeling pretty good, So I asked him if I could go. A friend was having a party, and he told me, okay, this and that. So I'd been there maybe about an hour, and one of the girls told me, your dad's out there. I said, well, he did say he was coming for me. He didn't give me a time then, So I go out there. Well, he was feeling pretty good. Vámonos. I didn't like to argue with him in front of friends or people, So then we got home, and he says, no, yo no te dejé ir, ¿por qué fuiste? Ay, papá, sí me dejó ir, no. Because he forgot. So he was so mad. I thought he was going to beat me up because, not that he would beat me up or anything, but he would scold me or punish me.
Uh-huh.
He would make me and my brother. This was in the store, Tommy. If we would disagree with him, or we wouldn't lie, or he'd find out he was lying, or my brother and I would get into it. He would make us kneel down in the store in the cement. I'd kneel down on one side, my brother like that, and people would come in the store to buy groceries, and they would look at us, And I was so embarrassed. I put my head down like this, But that was the way of him punishing us, so we would be embarrassed and stop doing whatever we had done, so people would know that we were being bad kids.
Yeah.
But oh my
Now,
God.
Bertha, were any of your friends, were they disciplined like that? Or was it common?
I don't think so.
No?
No. I
Was
don't-
it common for parents to discipline their kids like
Yeah,
that?
it was, because I would hear sometimes they got hit with a belt. Dad would take most of the time they wore belts, would take the belts off and let the kids have 2 or 3, or grab them by the hair, stuff
Uh-huh,
like that,
uh-huh.
But, after a while, the kids would say, oh, my dad hit me, oh, my mom did this, oh, my
Uh-huh.
mom did that.
Yeah.
This and that,
Because I remember going to school, and I hated bringing report cards home. Because I get a whipping every time I brought a report card home, Yeah. So anyway, I was just curious because of the punishment that you described.
Mhm.
Yeah, I wish I had that punishment instead of getting a belt on my nalgas. Yeah, that would be much easier. Yeah.
Just things that you remember.
Yeah. Before I forget, the parades, you mentioned the parades, the fiestas Septiembre parade. Do you remember how long the celebration was? Was it 1 day or 2 days or
No, I think it was two, like 15 and 16 of September.
the 15 and 16?
Just one, the parade was one day,
Uh-huh.
one afternoon, but the fiestas were 15 and 16 of September. And then they had a queen.
And the queen was chosen. Do you remember how the
Mhm.
queen was chosen?
Well, if they knew a family who had 3 or 4 girls, they would go and ask one of the girls if she wanted to run for the queen, And then they would have like some kind of a dance.
A fundraiser?
Yeah, I forgot the name of the hall, not American Legion. There was another little hall, well, this was 100 years ago when there was a drugstore and a bakery right there on the Starlight Underpass,
Yeah.
And that they would have a little dance there, like a family gathering, but you pay, I don't know how much, and whatever money they would get, that whoever if you want to be the queen, if you win, then they would to buy you the crown and buy you a dress.
Yeah.
You'd sit in this truck and ride around.
Yeah. So they would recruit girls to run for queen,
Mhm.
and the girls would go and do their fundraising. And how were the queens chosen? Do you remember?
That I don't remember.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember Pete Lukey?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Pete Lukey, Rosa, his daughter?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Pete Lukey was a friend of my dad's, and I remember, I must have been 14, 15, and I remember Pete Lukey coming over to the store, and he was talking to my dad. And my dad looked at me, and he told Pete, ahí está, pregúntale. So Pete comes over to me, and I didn't know what was going on, and he says, quiero saber, would you like to be the queen for the 16th of September? And I looked at him, and I said, no. He said, ¿por qué? Le dije, usted tiene a Rosa, y Rosa está muy bonita. To me, she was always a pretty girl. Ella que sea la reina. See, but the reason they would come and ask certain people, because like my dad, he had the business, so he had the money.
Yeah.
He could afford to buy me a dress and buy me the crown and give him some money or whatever, So Pete didn't want Rosa to run because he didn't have the money, So he went with my dad knowing that I was his daughter, and I said, no. And my dad went, ¿no quiere? Pues no quiere. That wasn't my thing.
You missed a situation of glory, Bertha.
No, because Rosa's a very pretty girl. I used to look at her eyes, she's so pretty,
Yeah.
so.
And she still is.
Yeah, but she's been very sick.
She still
She's
is.
very, very
And she
sick.
married Tommy
Oh,
Castorena. Yeah, they
so-
married a long
I
time.
know, so, but she's-
Getting back to the fiesta, after they announced who the queen was, what would happen next? Would they have a court or
Yeah, the girl, she got to pick whomever, 3 or 4 of her friends,
mhm.
to be, in her party, and she was the queen. I forgot about the girls. They all had a title, and then she would ride in the parade, like I said, and
Mhm.
then the fiesta used to be on the Sombrero Market now, on the corner there on N
And 8th Street,
Uh-huh.
La Cadena?
Yeah, they used to set it up, and then that's where they would have the fiesta, and the queen would sit there and her court,
You would have a stage,
Uh-huh.
the queen's stage and the
Mhm.
court and the different people in the court.
Mhm.
And then they had booths, huh?
Yeah,
They
where
had-
people
they-
would sell all kinds of stuff,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And
And then they would dance in the street.
they would close off the street.
Uh-huh,
Ca-
N
N-
Street,
N-
uh-huh, yeah, they would
between
close it off.
7th and 8th?
Uh-huh, and people would dance in the street, I remember that, dancing in the street. Can you imagine? But that's the way things were,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
100 years ago.
Yeah. Other entertainment, besides, you mentioned the show that you called it with your friend, and then you mentioned the party that your dad picked you up from.
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah.
any other thing that you did for entertainment with your friends?
No, because he wouldn't let me go.
Uh-huh.
That's the way it was, that's the way parents were then. No,
Uh-huh.
no, I see it, and that's all there was to it.
Uh-huh.
Well, in a way, as you grow up and you find out things, you figure your parents were right
Mhm.
by not letting you do this or stay late or this and that, but you're a kid, you want to, if somebody else stays
Yeah.
there till midnight, why can't you?
Uh-huh.
But-
Yeah.
But so we weren't allowed. you know, could only go to the show, you know, and that, when I met my husband was because it was New Year's Eve and my cousin was going to a dance with her boyfriend.
And how old were you then?
I must have been 15, 16. So she came in and she asked my dad if he would let me go with him. I hadn't even thought about it, you know,
Uh-huh.
because I knew what he was going to say, you know. And so he said, yeah, you know, I could go. So that's when I met my
Really?
future husband.
Really? And where was this at that you met him?
At the, entonces era el Valley Ballroom, Urbina Ballroom, you know.
Where the Inland Center
Where the
is?
Inland Center is,
Uh-huh.
you know. And what shocked me more was he had the same name as my dad and my brother. I was in a state of shock.
So you couldn't get away from the Trinidad, eh?
No, that's
Yeah.
when I met him, you know, so.
Now, how did you learn how to dance?
I had a cousin who was he was about a year ahead of me in school, and he knew how to dance, you know.
Do you remember the name of your cousin?
Yeah, Rudy Ramos, you know, and he knew how to dance. And after my mother died, my aunt, his mother, would come over to the house and cook dinner for us because I was 13 when my mother died. My brother was 9. And my dad had to work in the store. Who was going to cook? I didn't know, not even how to cook beans. I didn't know how to do anything. I knew how to wash dishes, you know, do the beds, stuff like that.
And run the cash register.
Yeah, uh-huh. So my aunt would come over, you know, in the evening and fix dinner for us. And so then I'd have those records, you know. So then I would play music, you know. And one time Rudy says to me, you know how to dance? I said, no, I don't know how. He says, come on, I'll teach you. So they'd come over and we'd dance and we'd dance. So that's how I learned. I learned to dance. You
So
know.
a family member taught you how to dance?
Mhm,
Uh-huh.
taught me how to dance, you know. So it was
And do
fun.
you remember the type of music that was popular then? Was it swing or was it Perez Prado?
No. Era Harry James.
Okay.
The Mexican music, no me acuerdo.
Uh-huh.
You know, that was probably, you know, my mind go back, but I just remember Harry James. Years later, that was Perez Prado and all the others, you know.
What Harry James, Tommy Dorsey,
Mhm.
Glenn Miller?
Glenn Miller. Uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
So you were part of the swinging years?
Yes. And then in school, sometimes we'd have a dance after school, you know. Well, I would have to lie, tell my dad I had to stay there and do homework so that I could stay at least for an hour.
Uh-huh,
And my
uh-huh.
girlfriend would do the same thing, tell her mother, teníamos que hacer, we have to stay after school, do this, do that. Oh, yeah, we'd stay there and we'd dance.
Now, what school was this?
High
Bertha?
school.
In high school?
It's high school. Mhm. Yeah, that's the only way
Ah,
to enjoy life.
Well.
Lie about it. That's
ah,
the way it went. You know,
Then
so.
I would imagine you didn't play marbles, really?
Yeah, I played marbles with my brother. That's
Uh-huh.
how I learned, you know.
Uh-huh. Hopscotch,
Yeah, hopscotch, and called jacks.
jacks?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where did you go to elementary school?
To Wilson. From San Salvador, I went to Wilson. High
You went to
school.
San Salvador first?
Mhm.
What grades did you go to San Salvador?
From kindergarten to 6.
Oh, 5, 6 years,
Mhm.
5, 6 years. And then you went to Wilson,
To Wilson.
junior high school?
Yeah, 7 and 8 at Wilson,
Uh-huh.
and then the 4 years at high school.
And at Wilson, you graduated from Wilson, what year did you graduate from Wilson?
44, probably 46.
45, 46?
45, probably, 45,
45.
yeah.
And then high school,
And then high school in 49.
you graduated from both
49.
high school.
Mhm.
Do you remember anything that, did you go to sports activities, football games and baseball games? Or you mentioned you went to dancing, pero a las escondidas.
Uh-huh, escondidas. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We went to basketball games, a couple of them. Because that's when, yeah, he became my boyfriend. And then, you know, we told my dad we're going to see a basketball game. And time, you know, what time to leave and what time to come home.
But did your dad know that you were dating Trini?
Well, then he knew. I had to tell him.
What was his reaction?
Well, he knew his sisters. You know, he knew especially Lola and, you know.
Oh, he knew the family.
Oh, yeah, he knew, you know. So I introduced him, you know, I had to tell him. So, but then when I got engaged, I didn't want him to know. 'cause he didn't want me getting married so soon. You know, to me, it wasn't soon. God, I was 19. Ya estaba
Gee,
vieja, ya
you were
estaba
an old
vieja. I
lady.
was
You were an old lady.
Uh-huh.
But at that time, girls generally got married after high school. Yeah.
But then, finally told me that, and then Father Valencia, in those years, the father would come and ask for your hand. He would talk to your parents.
Oh, tell me about that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
the boyfriend would go and ask the priest if he would go to your girlfriend's, like to my house, and ask my dad for my hand. If it was okay, we got married. If he said no, well, then things changed, But most of the time, the parents would say yes.
Uh-huh.
Since I didn't have a mother, then, he said, well, Father Valencia's gonna go on a certain night and ask your dad for your hand, So I thought, oh my God. I didn't know how my dad was gonna react or
Uh-huh.
what, so at the last minute, I just told him, hey, Papa, va a venir el padre. When I said that, he knew. So see, sure enough, here comes Father Valencia. And Father said, fine, si quiere casar, que se casen. So everything went fine.
Did you have a big wedding?
I didn't want a big wedding. I wanted just to get married, and that's all we had, just got
Yeah.
married. And then era pan mexicano y chocolate.
Yeah.
So that's what we had. And
That's
what
your reception, eh?
Uh-huh,
That's
that
your
was it.
reception.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then Trini was in service?
No, he was already out.
He's already
He
out?
was already out.
Where did he go, Korea?
I don't remember. It's been too long. I don't
Uh-huh.
remember.
And then Trini comes from a large family too. The Guerrero family is very, very large. You mentioned that his father passed away when he was very young. Yeah. And then they had what, 10, 12 children?
10 kids,
10 kids?
6 girls and 4 boys.
And Trini's mom raised all of them? And where did they live?
Right there on Am Street.
The same place that they live now?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah, between 9th and 10th?
Well, they had other houses before when the kids were small, but after started working at the cement plant, and he was able to save some money and buy that house. So he lived there. And then after that, he died, so they stayed there.
Oh, so Trini's father worked for the cement plant too?
Mhm.
Yeah. You mentioned something about the cement plant that your store being so close to the cement plant, that you would always hear those alarms. Tell us
Mhm.
about those alarms.
Well, they would go on like once a day, or sometimes maybe twice, and you just hear, whoo, that meant, and then you would wait, because you were a kid, you would go and hear the explosion. Well, to me, it was an explosion, but like I said, they had to explode the rocks to, make little pieces, and then to whatever they did, grind them or something to make them into cement.
Mhm.
But all the employees that work, people that worked there, when they would hear that whistle, they knew where to go hide, and this and that. But at that time, a piece of rock just fell on his father's head and killed him instantly, So, and then I don't know if those days if they had, if she must have received something, because it was an accident, and then with 10 kids, what are you gonna do? And then she never worked,
And how old was he? Do you know how old
He was in his
still?
40s.
In his 40s?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That must have been a hard situation for the family.
Oh, and then everybody in Colton knew, because you would hear that so loud, ooh, everybody. Like sometimes when I was younger, I would hear the Santa Fe, like at 12 noon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you hear, ooh, and you knew it's 12 o'clock, and I look at the clock, and sure enough,
Yeah.
So that was the same way with the cement plant. You'd hear
Mhm.
the ooh, and there was the explosion.
And then the blast would come, and then you'd hear the news that somebody might have been in an accident. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was a tragic part.
Very tragic, very tragic. There were
yeah.
several people that got killed like that,
Mhm.
but that's, the only one that I remember was his dad,
Let me switch a little bit. Do you remember who the leaders of Colton were, the political leaders of Colton, in our South Colton neighborhood? You mentioned Pete Lukey.
Yeah, Pete Lukey, and I think that Manuel Padilla.
Okay,
But I
Manuel
don't
Padilla.
remember what he did, but he
Uh-huh.
was something, because I remember him.
Yeah, he was very active in the community,
Mhm.
Congress of Community Clubs, and things like that. Who else do you remember?
That's all I remember, Pete Lukey and I don't remember. Been too long, Tommy. I don't remember who else, you
Uh-huh.
know. Whatever. So it's been a long life.
Yeah.
Thank
Now, at Colton High School, um, anything that you remember that was kind of stayed in your mind of all these years, you know, class or teacher or you know, sports or things that you did there, anything,
Club.
a club?
There were a couple of clubs, but I don't remember what they were. So I was never involved in anything, because I had to be home by a certain time.
Oh, so you were expected to be home quickly then?
Oh, yeah. School was out at 3. I better be there by 3:15, 3:20, or what's going on with you? You know?
And your walk was not too far, really?
No, it wasn't too far. We didn't
About a
think
mile
anything
or
of
so?
it.
Mile and a half or so?
Probably, but didn't think anything of
Yeah.
it, you know, walking. Everybody walked everywhere.
Yes, yes.
Everywhere you walked. You
Uh-huh.
know. And then after that, learn how to drive and get spoiled, you know. My dad taught me how to drive, and I didn't want to learn.
What time, how old were you when he taught you how to drive?
Probably 15, 14, 15.
Oh, you were young.
Yeah, I was very young. And well, he needed help after my mom passed. Like, he needed help to go deliver the groceries to people around the corner or something, you know, or go to the bank and this and that. And when he told me, I'm going to teach you to drive, I told him, no, yo no quiero aprender. Because in those years, in those times, there was very few women that drove.
None
First
at
of
all,
no,
very, very, very few,
Only
very
the
few.
men they had one car, if you had a car. You know, other than that, you'd ride with somebody else, you know, to go to work or something, you know. So I told him I didn't want to learn. And he told me that I didn't have a choice, I had to learn. So every Sunday, he'd take me out over to the cemetery,
Mhm.
Wamansa, because there was nobody around there.
Yes, yes.
And he taught me to drive, you know, so. I thought, well, thank God he did, because he really needed me, but you're a kid, and what does he need me for? You know,
Yeah.
he couldn't do it, you know. You don't realize, you know, that one person cannot do it all, you know,
Yeah.
so.
So your training environment was the Aguamansa Road?
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
Sundays, every
Which was
Sunday.
close to your house?
Yeah, every Sunday afternoon we'd go down. And then I used to think, why was here at the cemetery? Well, because there was nobody, no traffic, nothing. So stop and go and this and that, and it was stick shift, you know, and all that, you know.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
so thank God, you know, learn.
Now, when you got married, tell us about your family. How many kids do you have?
Me? I
Yes.
have 2 kids,
And boy, girl?
one of each,
A
a boy
boy,
and a girl.
a boy first?
Mhm.
What's the name of the boy?
George,
George? And the name of your girl?
Terry.
Terry?
Mhm.
And I would imagine they all went to schools in Colton. They were raised in Colton.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And then I think when Terry got to high school, I said to her one day, I said, I think your dad's going to start teaching you how to drive. And she looked at me, she says, Mom, I know how to drive. I said, you don't know how to drive? She says, yes, I do. I said, no, your dad hasn't taught you yet. You're only going to be 15. And she looked at George. She says, he taught me.
Your her
Can
brother.
you imagine? He had a Volkswagen. That's the kind of car that Trini liked, you know. And he taught George how to drive the Volkswagen. So he taught Terry. He let her drive to school and then drive back. And I was at work. I would get off at 3:00. So by the time I got home, they were there, and I didn't know she was no permit, nothing, and she was
Uh-huh.
learning to drive. And they were my good kids. You know how you hear on TV, oh, my son wouldn't do that. He's a good boy, and this and that. Mentirosos, pues que that's what they
Well.
were.
Well, I think there was a mentirosa in the family when they were growing up.
Yeah,
You mentioned that you worked. Where did you work?
I worked for Harris Company. I was there for 25 years. I was a cashier.
And how did you get to work?
Well, I drove.
Okay.
I drove,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the driving did come in handy?
Yes, very. Picked up one of my friends, I'd take her to work, you know, she didn't know how to drive either, you know, but thank God that My father made me learn. So it came hand in hand, you know.
What department did you work in?
I worked in the restaurant. I was the cashier in the restaurant, coffee shop. Mhm. And I love the hours, 10 to 3.
Oh, perfect.
And on Sundays,
Yeah.
you know.
So when you told Trini, I want a part-time job, this just worked perfectly for you
They
then?
just perfect hours and perfect days, you know. The kids would go to school and I'd go to work and I'd come home and they'd be home, and
Uh-huh.
so we were there all together. Thank God, you know. It worked out.
Now, Bertha, do you have any hobbies?
Not really. I never knew how to you know, most women know how to crochet.
Uh-huh.
That wasn't my thing, you know,
Uh-huh.
so, nothing.
Yeah. How do you keep yourself active?
I read a lot, Tommy.
Okay.
A lot. Well, every day I read. You know,
Uh-huh.
I read for maybe 30 minutes, you know. And then, you know, I watch the news, you know,
Mhm.
go outside in the backyard.
How did you acquire the liking to read? How did you acquire that?
Well, when I was young, I used to love to read magazines about the movie stars, you know, whatever was thing. Then as I started to get older, I started switching to the books,
Mhm.
like James Patterson or whatever, you know, older, just books, not those magazines that I
Uh-huh.
used to, you know. And now, you know, since all this time, and all the time, no, I have all the time in the world, you know,
Uh-huh.
so I do my thing around the house and go in the backyard, go in the front and water, pull weeds and this and that. And I like to do it. It keeps me
Uh-huh.
busy,
Yeah.
you know, but especially when the weather's good, you know.
Mhm.
If it's cloudy or ugly, I stay inside, you know. But that's about all I do.
You don't babysit grandkids?
I don't have any. Well, my grandkids, I told you, my grandson is 40. My youngest granddaughter is 34. The other one's 38. So what? Who do I babysit?
Are you a grandmother or a great grandmother?
Just a grandma.
You're a how many grandkids?
The 3. That's all I have.
Uh-huh.
3 grandkids. So, of course, that's okay. You know, when they were small, I couldn't babysit them because I started to work.
Oh, you started working, uh-huh.
You know, but the other grandma would baby. Once in a while, George would bring him over, you know. We would go in here or there, we
Uh-huh.
were there for a few hours and this and that. you
Yeah.
know. Nothing really that.
And your George is a retired policeman. What department did he work for?
He was,
Was it the Colton or San Bernardino?
No, San Bernardino. I think he was a sergeant
Uh-huh,
for 25 years.
uh-huh, yeah. And Terry?
Terry works for some other company. She's in Rancho Cucamonga right now.
Uh-huh. And I understand your granddaughter is also a policeman.
Yeah, the youngest one, and the middle one is a doctor.
Mhm.
She's an OBGYN.
And what
She-
hospital does she work?
She lives in Irvine,
Uh-huh.
so she owns some hospital over there.
Oh, wonder, congratulations.
Yeah,
Now,
well,
where
she-
did she go to school?
She went to high school here in
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 Colton?
Colton, but then she went to New
Well,
York.
What was her name?
Uh,
what is her name?
Jackie Guerrero.
Uh-huh.
And then she went to Columbia University in New York. So we
Mhm.
went to New York twice. Once to see her in her graduation, you know. And when she was a little girl, she used to come over and tell me, "Grandma, when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor." And, "Oh, okay, mija." And she would follow me, you know. "Grandma, I mean it." "Okay, fine." And one day she says to me, "Grandma, you don't believe me that when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor, huh?" I said, "Well, you sure?" "Yeah, I'm going to help ladies deliver babies." And I turned around and I looked at her. She must have been about 8, you know. And I said, "You're going to help ladies have babies?" "Yeah." And then I said, before I even asked her, I think like she read my mind. She says, "But I'm not having any." And I said, "Why not?" "Grandma, it hurts. It hurts. So I'm not going to that. I'm not having any." So, and she hasn't.
And to this day?
No. She says no. And then one day she comes because, and the way she works. Well, you know, if she's got all this women that are pregnant, you know, and she's their doctor, so if she can't leave the house or her apartment because she's on call. You know, so come on in. So your patient's here, or this one's been here for 2 hours, or So if she's got something to go, she's gotta stay with that phone, and she's gotta get to the hospital. So she says, sometimes I don't have time to sleep or to eat. I'm at the hospital with this woman. She says, do women know how to stop having babies? I said, well, you ask them, you're the doctor.
Now, Jackie has a brother, doesn't she? What's, her brother?
Jesse.
Jesse.
They
They were both students at Colton Junior
Yeah.
High. Colton
All
High
three of
School.
them went to,
And I remember both
to
of them.
Colton High, yeah,
Ah.
all three of them, yeah.
See.
Yeah, so.
So anyway, not only did they all go to Colton Junior High School, but I understand, you know, with this project that we're doing now, that everybody's related in Colton. Todos son primos.
Uh-huh, that's right, one way or another.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh, and sometimes it takes years, and then you find out, oh, well, you're related, well, we're related. Yeah, uh-huh. So it goes.
Well, you know, our other member of our committee that's doing this project is Mr. Henry Vasquez. And Henry Vasquez is related to the Guerreros.
Oralia, or she's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was Luz Gomez Vasquez.
Hola, de David?
Yeah, my dad was David.
David, yeah, I knew David, because they lived about 5 houses from where my dad's store was.
Well, we actually, where was the store?
But, you know, the Vasquez house was right here, like,
North.
in a
Oh, it
little,
was north. Oh, it's knocked down.
oh, yeah, there's no more store, but it was about 5 houses, 5, 6 houses down from the Vasquez,
Oh, okay.
my dad's store, you know, yeah.
Was it at the corner by any chance of
No.
Fifth and Maple? No?
No, it was like, there was a dirt road going up to the cement plant.
Georgia
Oh, on
Street.
Georgia.
So we were practically right in front, a little bit, the cement, the dirt road would run this way, and my dad's store was right here.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Oralia, the Vasquez are, well, not, Gomez.
My mom's Oralia.
Yeah, Oralia, yeah, he told me that, you know, yeah.
And then when you're talking to David, what's your last name, David?
Chuck.
Chuck, I'm sorry.
Vasquez.
Didn't you go to
Chuck
school
Vasquez.
with George?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I was
when
gonna
you said
mention.
Chuck, it rang a bell.
Yeah, I went to school with George.
Yeah, because I think, what's your sister's name?
And
I think she went to school with my daughter too, yeah.
what's the difference in age between George and Terry?
4 years,
Okay.
about 4
Okay,
years
same.
apart, yeah.
It was Terry.
Mhm. Yeah, and then I knew Lucy, David,
Small
Charlotte,
world.
Oralia, Martha,
Martha.
Tony, all of them, I knew them all, you know, yeah. But the years have gone by too fast.
Well, out of the Vasquez, only one is left of the men.
Is he in a wheelchair, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the two aunts, Lupe and
Rachel?
They're the only two left.
Lupe's still alive?
She still is alive,
Oh
yes.
my gosh, gee.
She's about, what, 90?
She's 92.
92.
She's
Just-
gotta be, 'cause,
She's not well. She can't walk much anymore.
Tomorrow she'll be 92.
Oh, tomorrow? Oh, that's right. Her birthday's on
my
Valentine's.
God, oh really? Oh my gosh. Yeah, see?
So this
Yeah.
project, Bertha, has really been about getting the families together, family reunions, because everybody's related.
Now, the neighborhood where your father's store was, at that time when you were little, what was the name for that barrio?
De la calle 5,
La Calle
la
Cinco.
calle 5.
Are you familiar at all with that barrio being referred to as La Católica?
I barely remember that,
Okay.
because estaba la church, there was the Catholic church on the
It was-
corner.
It was, at one time, San Salvador Church was close to Congress.
Yeah, on
On
the
Fifth.
corner, there was on the corner there. I remember one time, when I used to go to school to San Salvador, and I would turn there, and one time I saw this great big layer of cement, just a cement, you know.
The foundation.
And I remember asking my mother one time, or I asked somebody, why is the cement there? And I didn't know, and somebody told, I don't know if it was my mother or somebody said to me, there was a San Salvador church was there, but it, you know,
It burned down in
I don't know what
1917.
happened. Oh my gosh. but the cement stayed there forever, as long as I can remember, it was there.
Yeah, very few people seem to remember that as La Católica.
Yeah, too many years ago.
They gone by fast though. Bertha, let me ask you my last question. What is the best memory that you can think of or remember of growing up in Colton? What were the best memory that you have about growing up in Colton?
Well, I guess everybody knew each other, and, you know, you never had a problem with somebody breaking in your house or stealing your car or beating you up or shooting you. You know, it was nothing like that. Everything was, you didn't have a problem, you know. And now you have to watch everything,
Uh-huh.
you know, so, to me, that was the good old days. No problem with nothing. You'd walk anywhere. Now, especially things that have happened to me, you know, I quit driving because I won't drive. I'm afraid somebody will follow me because it happened one time. Or you're walking down the street, somebody will grab you. You look at that old lady and this and that, you know. So things are just entirely different, you know. So I don't know. You come to if I know you're coming to my house, I'll wait for you. Or I'll watch for you. Or if you call me, or if I know you, if I know your car. Other than that, you can come to my house and ring that doorbell, but I'm not going to open the door because I don't know who you are or what you want. So
So it's a lot different now.
very, very, very different.
So growing up in Colton when you were young was just a nice place.
You don't worry about anything, nothing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just nothing. But things have to change. That's all. Life changes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Women didn't work. Everybody has to work now, or you want to have anything, you have to go to work or nothing. And in those days, it was just a father. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's the way it is.
Well, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Well, you're very welcome, Mr. Rivera.
And, before I leave you, did I forget anything that I should mention?
Tell me, I don't remember, unless you ask me.
But no, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon and also bring some of those memories of La Calle Cinco to light. Because I've always been curious about your store. And then when somebody mentioned your store the other day, I said, aha, I'm gonna have to call Bertha. And I'm delighted that you were available to be with us.
Who could remember that story, you know, because it's been such a long time. you know.
Yes.
Long, long time.
But it was a great contributor to the neighborhood, to La Calle Cinco.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you got to know everybody,
Yeah.
you know, but half the people that I knew then, they're gone. You
Uh-huh.
know, just like now, you know, like, maybe when I graduated, there was probably from high school, about 40 of us. We were in the of course, high school wasn't like it is now, you know. It was the small auditorium, and we graduated, and we all got up there on the stage. So there was about 40 or 50 of us. The same, from Wilson, there must have been 25 of us when we graduated from Wilson. We sat outside, just, you know, a few chairs there, and that was it. And now, the
Use a
stadium, afuera.
football stadium.
Uh-huh, yeah, but that's life, you know, so things
Just
change.
one question about that. So you graduated from Colton High, from the auditorium there at Colton High?
Mhm.
Because I know sometime in the 40s, they started using the graduations, or maybe it was in the 50s, they used the Greek theater at Valley College.
Oh, no, it was probably later, because we were not in the auditorium there.
I had a question here. Is your maiden name Bocanegra?
Mhm.
Are you related, or were you related to Margarita Bocanegra by any chance? She was in my grandmother's choir at, at the people that sang at San Salvador. I just thought maybe there might be a connection. You remember that
I don't
name?
remember
No.
Margarita, no. But there was another family, Bocanegra. And I went to school with one of them, Ramon Bocanegra.
Mhm.
And his father was my father's cousin. So she could have been related there, but the only one I knew was Ramon. You know, but then the years go by and you don't remember, you forget.
Well, and you mentioned that people used to pick on you because of your last name.
Yes,
¿Qué decían?
black mouth. Bocanegra, a la black mouth, and this, you know, that's the way it was, you know. People would just, this girl se llamaba Adelina. Y le decían Adelina patas de gallina. You know, there was another, David Mendoza, David Mendoza cola pestosa. So I can just imagine what went on with Bocanegra. I can imagine. But that's the way it was.
That's the way it was.
That's the way it was,
Yeah.
so, whatever. Just,
Well, so again, thank you so much.
no,
And Frank, I think I forgot to mention the date today. Today is February the 13th, 2015, and tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Good.